Hello everyone and welcome to the first episode of Adam's Eats of 2019. I suppose I should start by saying a very happy new year to you all. I would have done a video sooner, but I don't know if you can tell, I am kind of recovering from a cold, been a bit unwell after Christmas. I don't know why, it happens all the time. My immune system seems to get shot over Christmas and then I start the new year with a cold. So apologies for that. And also you might notice that the audio is slightly better or worse. I don't know how this is going to pan out, but I've invested in a new microphone. I was kind of getting fed up with the lapel mic, to be honest. The cat was sort of mucking about with the wires. I was just sort of having to watch where I stepped because my foot would get tangled in it. So I've ended up getting a condenser mic which sits on top of the camera. And I have had one of these before and I didn't have much success with it, but this one's a bit better quality, so I'm hoping it's better. It also means I can sort of jump around, I can spin around as well, I've got no wires in the way. It just feels quite liberating actually, so I'm hoping this works out. But anyway, on to today's recipe. I'm going to cook for you a really simple lamb stew. I cooked up some lamb breast the other day using a recipe from Simon Hopkinson. It was braised in onions, it's really delicious, and I will put a link to that down below. But I had a bit left over, so I thought I'd make this. Right, so let's crack on with it. If you look down below in the description, you can get a list of those ingredients. And as usual, if you press pause now, you can get a list of them there as well. And I'm going to go and grab my veg and we're going to get prepping. Right, so I've got my vegetables here and I've got the obligatory carrot, onion and celery, which are the main three vegetables to use for any kind of stew. I've also got some turnips here, and I've got some bay leaf, I've got some rosemary, and I've got the leaves of the celery as well. Don't chuck those away because they've got lots of flavour, and I'm going to chuck those in at the end just for a bit of freshness. Now you can add other vegetables here, you can add parsnip, potato, any kind of root veg really, but I'm just going to keep it quite simple. So what I'm going to do now is peel and chop all of this up. You don't want to watch me do that because it's boring, so I'll see you when I've done it. Right, so you can see I've chopped up the veg. One thing to note as well is because this stew is going to be quite quick compared to a sort of long, slow cooked one, don't cut the veg too thick because otherwise it's not going to cook down in time. So just keep them about that sort of size, you know, small enough sort of bite-sized pieces, and you'll be just fine. So now that we've prepped the veg, we can get started, and the first thing we need to do is fry off some bacon. Right, okay, so I've got my pan here and I'm just going to pop that onto a heat. And I'm going to add just a touch of oil just to get it going. And then here I've got 150 grams of smoked bacon lardons. Just going to get those in. And I'm just going to smoosh those around. And I'm going to fry these off for about 2 to 3 minutes, just until they're nice and crispy. Okay, so once the bacon is nice and crisp, I'm just going to take it out of the pan just with a spatula, because I don't want to cook this anymore, because otherwise it might burn. And I've turned the heat down to a nice low flame, but I've still kept all the fat from the bacon in there. So now we're going to add the veg. So in there we've got the carrot, onion and celery, the turnip as well. And like I've shown you before, all we're going to do is just soften these slightly, just for about 5-10 minutes. Maybe get some charred edges on those carrots, but not too much because that will change the flavour. So I'm going to crack open a beer, tend to this for the next 10 minutes, so I'll see you in a bit. Right, okay, so I've been tending to this lovingly for the past 10 minutes or so. They're nice and soft, or just starting to get soft, and also the veg is taking on just a bit of colour, so you can see that there. Not too dark, again, you don't want kind of burnt charred stuff because it will really change the flavour, it will taste acrid, but just a little bit of colour really helps the flavour. So the next thing I'm going to add is some plain flour, 2 tablespoons I think for this amount. And that's going to act as our thickening agent, but what we need to do is to cook that flour out. I've seen so many recipes where they'll put the flour in at the end after everything's cooked to thicken it up, and if you do that it's going to taste chalky, it's going to taste floury and not very pleasant at all. So by adding it here we can mix it in and just cook that flour out for about a minute or so just to take the rawness out. If it looks a little bit dry like it does here, just add a touch more oil. Go with about another tablespoon. I know it looks like a bit of a car crash at the minute, but trust me, it's going to taste whizzing. Okay, so whilst that flour's cooking out, we can add our herbs. I've got 2 bay leaves here, which I'm just going to smush up. That helps release the oils. And I've also got some rosemary. Now I don't need all of this, so I'm going to use about half. But the rest I'm going to use for my dumplings, so I'm just going to cut that twig in half. We'll save that for the dumplings. And again, just with the rosemary twig, just really kind of twist it, bend it, you know, squeeze it, and that releases all of those oils and that just makes for a better dish. Amazing. Just get that in. We're going to add our smoked bacon back in as well. I'm going to add some pepper. A good generous pinch. I'm not going to add any salt because there's salt in that bacon and also the stock as well. So if it needs salt, we'll add it at the end. And just give that another mix through. And now we can start adding the stock. I've got a litre of good lamb stock here. I'm just going to go in with a bit first and just mix that through just to start it off. And then we're going to add a bit more. Now you might not need all the stock, but it's better to have too much than not enough. And once you've got to this stage, we now need to add the lamb. Right, okay, so I've got my lamb here, and all I've done is just sort of picked it into pieces like that, you know. Use whatever cut you like. I mean, like I said, this is breast. There's no reason why you can't use shoulder, use leg of lamb. It's entirely up to you. But just sort of pick it into sort of bite-sized pieces, and we're going to get that into the dish. So I've just mixed in the lamb, and I'm going to bring this up to a gentle simmer, and then I'm going to stick the lid on, and I'm going to leave that to trickle away for 45 minutes to an hour. You know, it can be ready in less, can be ready in half an hour, because really all we're doing is cooking the veg. But if you just give it a bit longer, it gives a chance for all those flavours to amalgamate. So whilst that's simmering away, I'll show you how to make the dumplings. Right, so whilst the stew is bubbling away, we'll make these dumplings. Really, really simple. We've got our flour here, we've got our suet, we've got water, we've got salt and pepper, and I'm going to add a touch of rosemary to my dumplings as well. So I'm going to do that first. So all I'm going to do is just take this sprig and just remove the leaves. I'm just going to finely chop it. And you really want it nice and fine because you don't want massive chunks of sort of rosemary in your dumplings, so get it nice and fine. Okay, so you should end up with about a teaspoon's worth. I'm going to get that into the flour. Next thing I'm going to do is to take the flour and I'm going to add the suet. This is beef suet. You can use vegetable suet as well. And I'm just going to add a pinch of pepper and also just a touch of salt. Okay, just quickly mix those dry ingredients together. And then just here I've got about 100 ml of cold water, and I'm going to add about half of that because we might not need all of it. So I'm just going to go about half. And then I'm just going to mix that in with a fork. You can use your hands, but it can be quite messy, but it's up to you. And that's what you should end up with. It should be slightly sticky, sort of a ball of dough there. It should be wet, not too loose. It needs to be firm enough so you can handle it. Once you've got to that stage, they're ready to go. So I'm going to leave that to one side, carry on cooking the stew, and about 30 minutes before it's done, we'll add the dumplings. Alright, okay, so about 30 minutes before this is done, we're now ready to add the dumplings, but just before we do that, I'm going to add a couple of more ingredients. I'm going to add the celery leaves that we saved from earlier. Just chuck those in, again, because they have plenty of flavour in there, and they're going to add a nice freshness. And I'm also going to add a good heaped teaspoon of cranberry sauce, and that will just add a little bit of a background sweetness because this is quite a heavy, rich sort of dish, so that sweetness just kind of helps cut through that. And I'm just going to melt that cranberry sauce in, and I'm just going to taste it, see if it needs any more salt and pepper. Well, it certainly doesn't need any salt, there's plenty in there already, and it doesn't need any pepper either. Right, okay, so we can now add the dumplings, and I've got a mug of cold water here. That just helps to stop the dumplings sticking to the spoon. So you're going to dip that in, and then take a portion of your dumpling mix. I know about that sort of size. You don't need to be too fussy with it. Just plop that in on top. Again, dip your spoon in the water. Now you've got to leave a fair bit of space between them because they do kind of expand quite a lot. And then what I like to do is just to nap over some of that gravy, and that will just help give them a nice extra bit of flavour. And then we're just going to pop the lid back on, and then we're going to cook those for about 20 to 30 minutes until they're nicely risen. Now what you can do if you want nice crispy dumplings is take the lid off about 10 minutes before it's done, and then just pop the pan underneath the hot grill for about 10 minutes until they're nice and golden on top. So I'm going to leave these to cook away, and once they're done we can get stuck in because I am absolutely starving. Right, so these dumplings have had about half an hour. I think they're done. Look how lovely and risen they are. So I'm going to turn the heat off, dish it up, and we can give it a taste. Get some of that wonderful stew in there. And of course, those wonderful dumplings. Oh, fantastic stuff. Right, let's tuck into this bad boy. Smells incredible. I'm going to first try one of these dumplings because they just feel really nice and fluffy. Give it a try. So fluffy. Really light, but they've taken on that really nice lamby flavour. You know, a dumpling is supposed to be kind of like a filler. You know, they were made to make a dish go further if you hadn't got much meat. But actually, like, they're almost as good as the stew itself, if not better. Let's try some of the stew itself. Try and get a bit of everything. It's still really hot. I mean, it's just so good. You can't go wrong. Now, I'm going to put this down for a second because I'm going to get on my soapbox a bit. Because really, I hear and read online sometimes about how rubbish British food is, and it's simply just not true. You know, dishes like this, done properly, it's what I want to eat, and it's what a lot of people want to eat. And yes, we like our fish and chips, yes, we like our curries, but really, this kind of food, it comes from thrift. You start with good ingredients, you add some good techniques, and you can't go wrong. So anyone out there that thinks British food is bad or rubbish, try this. I defy you not to like it. And if you don't, well, you're wrong. All jokes aside, you know, it's good stuff. You know, we're not in the 70s anymore, which is a very dark era for British food, trust me. I recognise that. But we're kind of moving away from that now. People are getting back to basics, simpler, you know, better ingredients, and just learning how to cook simple, honest food, which is what British cookery is about. But anyway, I'm off my high horse now. I've stepped down from my soapbox, alright? I just had to get it out there. But anyway, that's the end of the video. My very simple leftover lamb stew with some nice herby dumplings. So if you like what you see, then please stick a like down below. Really do appreciate it. Comment and share across your social media platforms. And as always, if you stick around at the end, there'll be some links to some other videos. And if you'd like to subscribe, there'll be a button for that as well. And of course, I'll see your lovely beaming faces next time for more tasty fun and frolics. And bye for now. Time to go and polish off the rest of this.